The trial of a man accused of murdering 6 women continues today in the Palm Ridge Magistrate's Court. Sifiso Mkhwanazi allegedly murdered the sex workers at his father's panel beating business in Johannesburg. He was arrested in October 2022. The caretaker who found the first body of one of the sex workers says Mkhwanazi was the last person seen entering the premises of his father's panel beating business with a woman. For more on the story, let's bring in SABC News reporter Offense Sitimo. Offense, you've been monitoring court proceedings yesterday. Just talk to us about what came out of court and what we can expect then today.
Thank you very much, Unati. Well, we are expecting that the father of Sifiso Mkhwanazi, that is Mark Kumalo, is expected to actually wrap up his testimony. He was being questioned by the state yesterday, where he elaborated on, the last few days before the discovery of the body. He did mention that, in the workplace where they were actually panel beating cars, they used to have about 3 dustbins which were actually being used to dispose of the rubbish that they were actually having there. And for some reason, these dustbins started, disappearing one after another, up to a point where all of them were actually gone. And when he started quizzing as to what is behind the disappearance of these dustbins, his son, who's the accused in this particular matter, was actually, lightly, actually saying, no, they could be at the dumping site where they would normally dump some of the rubbish. And in fact, some of the, suspicions that he picked up was the issue of the windows in the warehouse. He was saying, most of the time, whenever they come to the workplace, they would find the windows open, despite him actually strongly suggesting that these windows actually should be closed, And then also, he says, one of his suspicions was the smell, the foul smell that started to pick up over time, just a few days before the caretaker of the building of which he's actually renting for his business discovered the first body. And as you rightfully mentioned in the intro, upon, inspection by the caretaker who was testifying, who wrapped his testimony yesterday, that, there was a smell. That's when they discovered the body. And in fact, upon checking the CCTV footage, that's when they realized that Sifiso Mkhwanazi was the last person to actually enter the building with a woman companion. But I'm actually joined right now by Pearl Mazibuko, who actually is from the Cathora's Parliament, an NGO that, speaks out against social ills. Pearl, thank you so much for your time. What is your reaction to what actually transpired inside court, where you heard that, Sifiso Mkhwanazi was actually saying that, he killed these women because, the agreed amount that he wanted to pay for sex, they reneged upon, How do you feel about the reaction of that?
Actually, from observing the way he was behaving yesterday, we're not happy at all, because he was busy signaling to some of the victims' family. So he's not remorseful at all. So we're concerned about that, as well as the fact that actually this young man, he deserves a life sentence. That's what we're calling for from the judiciary. Yes. As well as if we were to speak to the number one himself, we'd actually ask him to please not give parole to such ultimate crimes as this, especially for murder and stuff.
And there's been some advocacy for, the legalization of sex work, because they are saying that the conditions that they actually work in are unsavory and sometimes not safe. What is your reaction to that particular call by some of these NPOs that, sex work should be legalized so that there could be some regulation and some form of safety?
It could be decriminalized, but not legalized. However, we still need to think about it and maybe liaise with other NPOs. Yeah, and get their reactions.
Yes. And your stance on the father of the accused actually becoming a state witness, to strengthen the state's case against his own son?
Yeah, it's quite heavy. Just looking at them in court yesterday, as of 2022, it's quite heavy.
And then what do you think about the duration that it's actually taking for this particular trial to get underway? We know that even today there could be a trial within a trial which could actually divert the attention to the main event, if I may, for lack of a better word.
It's our justice system, unfortunately. There's nothing we can do.
Well, as you heard there, that's Pearl Mazibuko from the Kathora's Parliament, actually elaborating on what actually transpired yesterday. As I mentioned in my intro, we are expecting that the father of the accused is actually going to wrap up his testimony. We know that the defense is expected to sort of cross-examine his testimony, where he testified that, upon calling his son after the body was discovered, the son actually tried to run away, but he was caught. And upon viewing the CCTV footage, showing that he was the last person to actually enter the premises where the body was found, that the police actually decided to arrest him. We will hear what transpires as we are keeping closely to the developments here at court. And with that, it's back to studio.
Of our viewers, just remind us again what the charges that Mr. Mkhwanazi is currently facing.
We know that there are 7 charges of rape and there's 6 charges of murder. It's 7 charges of rape because what had transpired was that the initial charge of rape, he had settled with his accuser. But upon discovery of this particular charge, it was actually reinstated. And it's also, the illegal possession of firearm and also ammunition, and also trying to, if I may, for lack of a better word, disturbed the administration of justice, of which they are saying that he actually tried to conceal some of the bodies, whereas, this was actually hampering with the administration of justice.